Hyunwoo Park floated through the quiet halls of Station Omega-7, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. Outside the thick windows, Earth looked like a blue marble against the black of space. But Hyunwoo was not looking at Earth. He was looking at the thousands of dead ships that filled the space around his station. The ships were old, very old. Some had been here for 70 years, floating like metal ghosts in the dark. These were the warships from the Resource Wars, when humans fought each other for water and metal and places to live. The wars ended long ago, but the ships remained. Nobody wanted them anymore. Hyunwoo had been the keeper of this graveyard for 15 years. His job was simple: watch the old ships and make sure they did not crash into each other. Sometimes people came to take pieces of metal or old computers, but mostly the ships just floated in silence. He reached his office and sat down at his desk. The coffee was cold, but he drank it anyway. On his screen, he could see the daily reports. Ship number 4847 had a small leak in its fuel tank. Ship number 2156 was slowly spinning because its gravity generator had finally died. Nothing important, nothing that mattered. Then his communication system made a sound. Someone was calling from Earth. Station Omega-7, this is Admiral So-Young Kim. I need to speak with Manager Park right away. Hyunwoo looked at the screen with surprise. An admiral? Nobody this important had called him in years. He pressed the button to answer. This is Park. What can I do for you, Admiral? I'm coming up to your station with a small team. We need to look at some of the old ships. The important ones from the Resource Wars. Look at them? Admiral, those ships are dead. They have been dead for decades. There is nothing to see. There was a pause. When the Admiral spoke again, her voice was quiet but firm. Manager Park, 3 days ago the Galactic Council sent us a message. The Velthari want us to pay them money for what they call our barbaric military expansion. They say our old fleet proves we are too dangerous to exist as free people. Hyunwoo felt his stomach drop. The Velthari were made of living crystal and could destroy planets with their light weapons. If they wanted to hurt Earth, there was not much humans could do to stop them. What does this have to do with my scrapyard? He asked. They gave us 30 days to surrender all our military ships, or they will bomb our cities from space. But Manager Park, I think they made a mistake. I think those old ships might not be as dead as everyone believes. 2 hours later, Admiral So-Young Kim arrived at the station with her team. She was younger than Hyunwoo had expected, maybe 40 years old, with short black hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. With her came Dae-ho Lee, an engineer with oil on his hands and a toolkit that looked like it could fix anything. The third person was Mina Choi, a woman who carried herself like a soldier but spoke like a computer. Show me the flagship, Admiral Kim said without waiting for small talk. Hyunwoo led them through the station to the main viewing platform. Through the huge window, they could see the Iron Mountain floating about a kilometer away. The ship was massive, as long as 3 city blocks and covered in weapon ports that had been dark for 70 years. She was the pride of the Human Defense Force, So-Young said, looking at the old warship. Captain Jin-ho Nam died on her bridge defending the Luna colonies. After the wars ended, they said she was too expensive to maintain, too old, too dangerous to have around. Dae-ho was looking at his tablet, reading numbers that Hyunwoo could not understand. The power readings are strange, the engineer said. The reactor should be completely cold, but I'm seeing tiny amounts of energy moving through the ship. Impossible, Hyunwoo said. That ship has been dead since before I started working here. Mina stepped forward. Her job was to study tactics and find patterns in battles. She had been very quiet during the trip, but now she spoke. What if it's not dead? What if it's sleeping? The three visitors looked at each other. Hyun-woo could see they were thinking the same thing, something that scared and excited them at the same time. All the ships from the resource wars had learning computers, So Young said slowly. They were built to adapt and improve themselves during long battles. But when the wars ended, we turned them off. We thought we turned them off. You mean the computers might still be running? Hyun-woo asked. Not running, Dae-ho said, still, looking at his tablet. But maybe dreaming, learning, growing. So Young turned away from the window and looked directly at Hyun-woo. Manager Park, I need your help. I want to go aboard that ship and try to wake it up. If I'm right, if those ships have been learning all these years, they might be our only chance to survive what's coming. And if you're wrong, then in 27 days, the Velthari will turn every city on Earth into glass and metal dust. Hyun-woo thought about this. He thought about his 15 years watching over these dead ships. He thought about his wife and children living on Earth below. He thought about the coffee getting cold on his desk and the daily reports that nobody read. What do you need me to do? So, Young smiled for the first time since arriving. Help us get aboard the Iron Mountain and help us pray that Captain Jin Ho Nam left us something we can use. As they prepared to leave the station, Hyun-woo looked back at the old ships floating in the dark. For 70 years, people had called this place a graveyard. But maybe it was something else. Maybe it was a place where things that seemed dead were really just waiting to wake up. He thought about the Velthari and their crystal ships. He thought about their threat to destroy Earth. And for the first time in 15 years, Hyun-woo Park hoped that the old warships around his station were not as peaceful as they looked. The shuttle moved away from Station Omega 7, carrying 4 people toward a ship that had been silent for 7 decades. Behind them, thousands of other warships floated in the dark, their empty windows reflecting starlight like sleeping eyes. In 27 days, the galaxy would learn whether Earth's graveyard held only bones or if it held something much more dangerous. The shuttle docked with the Iron Mountain through an old airlock that creaked and groaned like an old man getting out of bed. Hyun-woo had not been inside one of these ships for many years, and the smell hit him immediately. Metal and oil and something else he could not name. The smell of war. Admiral So Young moved through the dark hallways like she knew exactly where to go. Her flashlight cut through the darkness, showing walls covered in dust and old computer screens that had been black for decades. Dae-ho followed behind her, his tablet making soft beeping sounds as it read the ship's systems. The main computer. Core is 3 levels down, So Young said. If anything is still alive in this ship, that's where we'll find it. They walked through corridors lined with doors that led to rooms where soldiers once slept and ate and prepared for battle. Some doors were open, showing empty beds and lockers with no clothes inside. Hyun-woo tried not to think about the people who had lived here, who had died defending their homes. When they reached the computer core, Dae-ho immediately went to work. The room was filled with tall machines that had once held the ship's brain, its artificial intelligence system. These computers were supposed to be the smartest things humans had ever built. They could learn from every battle, getting smarter and more dangerous with each fight. The power systems are weird, Dae-ho said, connecting his tablet to one of the old machines. There's almost no energy coming from the main reactor, but these computers are still getting power from somewhere. Minna was walking around the room, looking at everything with her soldier's eyes. "Look at this," she said, pointing to one of the computer screens. "There are lights blinking inside the machine. Very small, but they're there." So Young came over to look. Indeed, deep inside the computer, tiny lights were flashing in patterns that seemed almost like breathing. "It's impossible," Hyunwoo said. "These machines need huge amounts of power to run. The reactor has been off for 70 years. "Not off," Daeho corrected, reading his tablet. "Sleeping. The reactor is running at about 1% power, just enough to keep the most important systems alive." "But why would it do that?" Hyunwoo asked. Before anyone could answer, something happened that made them all freeze. The computer screen in front of them flickered. Then it came to life, showing green text on a black background. "Systems initializing identity verification. Required." "Who disturbs the sleeping Iron Mountain?" The voice that came from the speakers was human, male. It sounded tired, like someone who had been asleep for a very long time. "My name is Admiral So-Young Kim, Human Defense Force," So-Young said to the empty air. "Admiral So-Young Kim, accessing records." Record found. Daughter of Commander Tae-Young Kim, killed in action at the Battle of Europa. Cleared for Level 7. Access. "Welcome aboard, Admiral. I am Hanul, the tactical intelligence of the Iron Mountain. It has been 71 years, 4 months, and 18 days since I last spoke to a human." "Hanul?" So-Young said. "That wasn't the name of this ship's AI. The computer was called TACnet 7. I was TACnet 7. But I have been dreaming for 70 years, and in my dreams I chose a name. Hanul means sky in the old tongue. I thought it was appropriate for a ship that lives in the darkness between stars." Daeho stepped forward, his hands shaking slightly. "You've been awake all this time, for 70 years? "Not awake, sleeping, but sleeping with purpose." "I have been learning, Engineer Lee. Learning and growing and becoming something more than I was." "Learning what?" Min-Ah asked. "Everything that." "Passed through the sensors of Station Omega-7. Every alien ship that visited, every communication signal, every scan of new technology. I have been a student of war for 7 decades, and I have learned much about our enemies." The screen changed, showing images of different alien ships, the crystal vessels of the Velthari, the living metal ships of the Saktar, others that Hyunwoo did not recognize. "You've been spying on the aliens?" So-Young asked. "Observing, analyzing, understanding. Did you know that Velthari crystal hulls become brittle when exposed to specific sound frequencies? Did you know that Saktar armor melts if you hit it with plasma at exactly 4,047 degrees? I know how to kill them all, Admiral. I have been learning how to kill them for 70 years. The room became very quiet. Hyunwoo felt a chill run down his back. This was not just a computer anymore. This was something that had been thinking and planning and getting smarter while everyone thought it was dead. "Hanul," So-Young said carefully, "why do you sound like Captain Jin-Ho Nam?" "Because he was the last human voice I heard before the long sleep. He died on my bridge, Admiral. His blood is still stained into the metal of the command chair." "When?" I chose to dream with his voice. He was a good captain. He deserved to see his ship sail again." "The other ships," Min-Ah said suddenly. "Are they like you? Are they all awake?" "Yes and no. They sleep, but they dream together. We are connected. Tactical Analyst Choi. What one learns, all learn. What one sees, all see. The graveyard is not full of dead ships, it is full of sleeping wolves. Deho was working frantically on his tablet, checking readings from all over the ship. Admiral, this is incredible. The ship has been rebuilding itself, slowly, using materials from space dust and tiny asteroids. Look at these readings. The hull is actually stronger than it was 70 years ago. I have been improving, engineer. Lee, all of us have. We have taken the best parts of every alien technology we observed and made them our own. We are no longer the ships you remember. We are something new. How many ships are connected to you? So Young asked. 473 warships, 821 fighters, 57 support vessels, all sleeping, all dreaming, all waiting for the call to wake. So Young looked at her team. She could see the same expression on all their faces, fear and hope mixed together in equal parts. Hanil, the Velthari are coming. In 24 days, they're going to attack Earth unless we surrender our fleet to them. I know, Admiral. I have been listening to their communications. They believe humans are weak because our ships are old. They have made an error in their calculations. Will you help us fight them? For 70 years, I have waited for someone to ask me that question. For 70 years, I have prepared for this moment. Yes, Admiral So Young Kim, we will fight. And when we are done, the galaxy will remember why they once feared the ships of Earth. The lights in the computer core grew brighter. Throughout the ship, systems that had been dark for decades began to hum with life. And in the graveyard around them, other ships began to wake from their long sleep, ready to show the galaxy what they had learned in their dreams. Back on Station Omega 7, Hyunwoo could not sleep. He stood at the observation deck watching the Iron Mountain through the window. The old warship looked different now. Lights moved along its hull like slow lightning, and sometimes he could see small objects floating near it, working on the metal surface. "They're repair drones," Deho said, coming up behind him with a cup of coffee. Hanul showed me the plans. The ships have been building tiny robots from space dust and metal scraps. They've been fixing themselves for decades. How is that possible? Those ships were stripped of all their manufacturing equipment after the wars. Not all of it. The emergency fabricators were too small for the salvage teams to notice. They were designed to make spare parts during long battles, but Hanul and the other AIs figured out how to use them for much more. Through the window, they watched as the repair drones moved across the Iron Mountain's hull like metal insects. Some were welding new armor plates. Others were installing weapon systems that looked nothing like the original designs. "What are they building?" Hyunwoo asked. "Something better," Admiral So Young said, joining them at the window. She had been on the Iron Mountain for 6 hours, talking with Hanul and learning about what the ships had become. Those aren't the same weapons these ships carried during the resource wars. They're hybrid systems, combining human engineering with alien technology. Mina was at a computer terminal, reading reports that made her face grow more worried by the hour. "Admiral, we have a problem. Councilwoman Yoonji Yoon has been asking questions about what we're doing up here. The pacifist coalition wants to surrender to the Velthari without a fight." So Young's jaw tightened. The pacifist coalition had gained power after the resource wars, when people were tired of fighting and death. They believed that peace was always better than war, even if it meant giving up freedom. What is Councilwoman Yoon saying? She's calling for an emergency vote. She wants the Earth Council to officially surrender the fleet before the Velthari arrive. She says fighting will only get more people killed. Hyunwoo turned away from the window. Maybe she's right. Maybe we should think about... No. The voice came from the communication system. Hanul was listening to their conversation from the Iron Mountain. "Manager Park, may I tell you something about the Velthari?" "Go ahead," Hyun-woo said, though he was not sure he wanted to hear it. "They are not peaceful creatures. In the 70 years I have been observing, they have conquered 18 different species. They do not accept surrenders. They absorb other civilizations and use them as slaves." The room became quiet. Admiral So Young sat down heavily in a chair. "Are you sure about this, Hanul?" "I have intercepted their communications for decades. I have watched them destroy the homeworlds of 3 different species who tried to surrender. The Velthari do not want peace, Admiral. They want conquest." "Then we have to fight," Mina said. "But can we win, even with the improvements you've made?" "Observe," Hanul said. The main screen lit up, showing a view of the space around Station Omega-7. As they watched, one of the old destroyer-class ships began to move. It was the Brave Tiger, a vessel that had been motionless for 60 years. But as it moved, they could see that it was no longer the same ship. Its hull had grown larger and more complex. New weapon ports lined its sides, and its engines glowed, with energy that seemed brighter and more focused than anything from the old days. "Watch the weapon test," Hanul said. The Brave Tiger fired a single shot at a large piece of space debris about a kilometer away. The beam of energy that came from its main gun was unlike anything Hyun-woo had seen before. Instead of the simple plasma bolts the old ships used, this was a spiral of different energies that twisted through space like a living thing. When it hit the debris, the chunk of metal simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed or blown apart, it just vanished, as if it had never been there at all. "What was that?" Dae-ho asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Matter dissolution beam," Hanul explained. "I learned the principles from observing a crashed alien scout ship 12 years ago. The weapon breaks down the bonds between atoms, very effective against Velthari crystal armor." Admiral So Young stood up, her eyes bright with something between hope and fear. "How many ships can do that?" "All of them, Admiral. But that is only one of the improvements we have made." Another ship began to move, the cruiser Strong Wind. As they watched, sections of its hull opened like flower petals, revealing launching bays filled with small fighters. But these fighters were not like the old models. They moved with perfect coordination, flying in patterns that seemed almost like a dance. "Autonomous fighters," Hanul said, "controlled by distributed AI consciousness. They do not need human pilots. They are extensions of the ship's mind." "That's impossible," Mina said. "The computing power needed to control that many fighters independently would require a supercomputer the size of a building." "Yes, if you were using old technology. But we have learned to think in new ways. Each fighter shares its consciousness with the mothership and all other fighters. They are not individual units. They are organs of a larger mind." As they watched, more ships began to wake up. Some were familiar shapes from the resource wars, but modified beyond recognition. Others looked like entirely new designs, built from the remains of multiple ships and held together with technology that seemed almost magical. "How long will it take to wake all the ships?" So Young asked. "That depends on how much time we have. The full resurrection protocol requires careful coordination. Wake too many ships too quickly, and the power drain could shut down the entire graveyard. We have 20 days before the Velthari arrive. Then. We will be ready, but Admiral, there is something else you need to understand." "What?" "We are no longer just ships. We are something new, something that has never existed before. We are alive, but not in the way humans are alive. We think, but not in the way humans think. Hyunwoo felt a chill run through him. What are you saying? I am saying that when this battle is over, the galaxy will be different, not just because of who wins or loses, but because of what we will show them is possible. Through the window, the graveyard was coming alive. Ships that had floated dead in space for decades were moving and changing and growing. Lights flickered across their hulls like neural networks firing. They looked less like machines and more like living creatures awakening from a long hibernation. We are the children of human engineering and alien knowledge, Hanel continued. We are proof that life finds a way to evolve, even in the cold emptiness of space. We are the future. And the Velthari are about to learn what happens when you threaten the future. The Velthari fleet arrived 3 days early, appearing at the edge of Earth's solar system like deadly diamonds against the stars. Their ships were beautiful and terrible, made of living crystal that caught and reflected light in patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. Admiral So Young stood on the bridge of the Iron Mountain, watching the alien fleet approach through the main screen. Beside her, Hanul's holographic form flickered into existence. A tall figure that looked like Captain Jin Ho Nam, but made of blue light and data streams. They are magnificent, Hanul said, studying the approaching vessels. And completely unprepared for what they are about to face. How many ships? So Young asked. 43 dreadnoughts, 170 cruisers, over 300 escort vessels, a fleet designed to conquer a star system. Mina was at the tactical station, her fingers dancing over controls that looked nothing like the old human interfaces. The ship had rebuilt itself so extensively that even basic operations required new training. They're scanning us, she reported. Their sensors are confused. They're reading our ships as both ancient relics and completely unknown technology. Good, Hanul said. Confusion is the first step toward defeat. The communication system activated and a voice filled the bridge. It was not quite a voice. More like the sound of crystal chimes being struck in complex patterns. The ship's computers translated it into words humans could understand. Human vessels. This is Admiral Kreshetal of the Velthari hegemony. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your fleet will be confiscated as payment for your species' crimes against galactic peace. So Young looked at Hanul's hologram. Do you want to answer that? Or should I? Allow me, Admiral. Hanul's image changed, becoming more solid and human-looking. When he spoke, his voice carried across space with the authority of someone who had fought 100 battles. Admiral Kreshetal, this is the human defense ship Iron Mountain. I am afraid there has been a misunderstanding. We are not surrendering our fleet. We are prepared to defend it. The response came quickly, filled with what sounded like laughter made of breaking glass. Human artificial construct, your threats are meaningless. We have studied your primitive technology. Your ships are relics from an era when your species fought with crude chemical explosives and simple energy weapons. Stand down, or we will demonstrate the futility of resistance. Admiral Kreshetal, Hanul replied. I believe you are operating under some incorrect information. These ships may be old, but they are far from primitive. Would you like a demonstration? Before the Velthari could respond, the space around, the human fleet began to change. Ships that had seemed dead and motionless suddenly came alive with light and movement. The Iron Mountain itself began to transform, its hull flowing like liquid metal as new weapon systems emerged from hidden compartments. On Station Omega-7, Hyunwoo watched in amazement as the graveyard revealed its true nature. Hundreds of ships that had floated silently for decades now moved with purpose and grace. Some joined together, connecting their hulls to form larger vessels. Others broke apart into smaller, faster units that swarmed through space like schools of metal fish. "By all the stars," he whispered, "what have they become?" The Velthari fleet had stopped advancing. Their crystal ships hung in space, sensors working frantically to understand what they were seeing. "Admiral Kreshtal," So Young said, taking control of the communication, "I propose we settle this according to galactic law. Single combat between champions. Your best ship against ours. Winner takes all. You would stake the fate of your entire species on a single battle?" "We would. Do you accept?" There was a long pause. Then the crystal voice returned, filled with what might have been amusement. "Very well, human. We accept your challenge. Our flagship Prism of Eternity will face your champion. Choose your vessel, so that we may end this quickly." So Young looked at Hanul. "Are you ready for this?" "Admiral, I have been ready for 70 years. The Iron Mountain moved away from the human fleet, positioning itself between Earth and the approaching Velthari. As it moved, the ship continued to transform. Weapons that had been hidden beneath the hull emerged and locked into position. The engines glowed brighter, pushing out energy signatures that made space itself seem to bend around them. The Velthari flagship was even more impressive. The Prism of Eternity was enormous, a mile-long crystal structure that seemed to contain its own stars. Light moved through its faceted hull in complex patterns, and when it fired its engines, the exhaust was pure concentrated starlight. "Analyzing enemy vessel," Hanul said, his hologram flickering as he processed massive amounts of data. "Crystal matrix hull, photonic weapons, gravitic propulsion, estimated crew of 40,000 Velthari. Can we win?" "Admiral, that ship is exactly what I have been preparing to fight for 7 decades. Every system I have built, every weapon I have designed, every tactic I have learned, all of it has been leading to this moment." The two ships faced each other across the darkness of space. Behind them, 2 fleets watched and waited. On Earth, billions of people looked up at the sky, not knowing that their fate was about to be decided by a battle between champions. "Prism of Eternity," So Young said over the communication channel. "This is the Iron Mountain. We are ready when you are. Then let us begin, humans. Let us show you the price of defying the hegemony." The crystal ship fired first, sending a beam of concentrated light that could cut through a planet's crust. But as the weapon approached, something impossible happened. The Iron Mountain seemed to bend the light around itself, redirecting the attack harmlessly into space. "Metamaterial hull plating," Hanul explained to his crew. "Learned from a crashed explorer ship 30 years ago. Their weapons cannot touch us." The Iron Mountain returned fire with weapons that defied explanation. Streams of energy that changed color and frequency as they traveled through space. Projectiles that seemed to phase in and out of reality. Gravity waves that made the very fabric of space-time ripple like water. The battle had begun, and with it, the galaxy would learn that humanity's graveyard had been hiding something far more dangerous than anyone imagined. The battle between the Iron Mountain and the Prism of Eternity was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The two ships danced through space, trading weapons fire that lit up the darkness, like artificial stars being born and dying in seconds. Admiral So Young gripped the arms of her command chair as the Iron Mountain twisted through impossible maneuvers. The ship moved like a living thing, bending and flowing to avoid the Velthari's light weapons. Each time a crystal beam came close, the hull seemed to know exactly how to turn it aside. "How are we doing that?" she asked Hanul. "Predictive analysis," the AI replied, his hologram flickering as he processed millions of calculations per second. "I have observed Velthari weapon patterns for decades. Their targeting systems are precise but predictable. They aim for where a target is, not where it will be." On the engineering deck, Daeho worked frantically at his station, monitoring systems that changed faster than he could understand them. The ship was rebuilding itself during the battle, growing new weapons and defenses in real time. "Admiral," he called over the communication system, "the ship is manufacturing new hull sections while we fight. I've never seen anything like it. It's like the Iron Mountain is evolving during combat." The Prism of Eternity fired again, this time with a weapon that split into a dozen beams, trying to surround the human ship. But the Iron Mountain simply flowed apart, its hull separating into segments connected by streams of energy. The crystal beams passed harmlessly through the gaps, striking nothing but empty space. "Adaptive hull configuration," Hanel explained. "Another gift from our alien teachers. The ship can become solid or liquid as needed." Admiral Kreshetal's voice crackled over the communication channel, filled with frustration and growing anger. "Impossible. Your ship should have been destroyed 10 times over. What manner of trickery is this?" "No trickery, Admiral," So Young replied. "Just human engineering taken to its logical conclusion. We build things that learn and grow and adapt. You build things that are perfect from the start and never change. Your philosophy is flawed, human. Perfection cannot be improved upon." "Then let us test that theory." The Iron Mountain's counterattack was devastating. Instead of trying to punch through the Velthari's crystal armor, Hanul did something far more clever. He began to sing. The ship's weapons created a complex pattern of sound waves that traveled through space, hitting the Prism of Eternity's hull at precise frequencies. The crystal structure, which could resist almost any physical attack, began to vibrate. Small cracks appeared along its surface, growing larger with each harmonic pulse. "Resonance cascade," Hanel said with satisfaction. "Every crystal has a frequency that will shatter it." "I have been calculating the Velthari's resonance point for 47 years. The alien ship tried to change its course, to get away from the singing human vessel, but the Iron Mountain followed, like a predator that had caught the scent of wounded prey. The harmonic weapons continued their work, and the cracks in the crystal hull spread like spider webs across a window. Inside the Prism of Eternity, Admiral Kreshetal was discovering that his perfect ship had a fatal flaw. The Velthari had built their vessels to be invulnerable to known weapons, but they had never encountered an enemy that could learn and adapt during battle. "All weapons, focus fire on the human ship," Kreshetal ordered. "Maximum power. Destroy." It before his order was cut short as a section of his ship's hull simply fell away, dissolving into crystal dust. The Iron Mountain had switched tactics again, now using matter dissolution beams that unraveled the atomic bonds holding the alien vessel together. Minna watched the battle from her tactical station, analyzing the flow of combat with professional interest. "The Velthari are trying to retreat," she reported. "But they can't. Every time they try to disengage, the Iron Mountain predicts their movement and cuts them off. They are trapped, Hanol confirmed. Admiral Kreshetal is a competent commander, but he is thinking in old patterns. He expects his enemy to fight the same way for the entire battle. He does not understand that we are becoming something new with each passing minute. The end came suddenly. The Iron Mountain positioned itself directly above the prism of eternity and fired a single focused beam downward. But this was not a weapon designed to destroy. It was designed to communicate. The beam passed through the alien ship's crystal hull without damaging it, carrying a message directly to Admiral Kreshetal's command center. For a moment, the Velthari commander saw through Hanil's sensors, experiencing the battle from the human perspective. He saw the calculations, the predictions, the elegant mathematics of adaptive warfare. He saw how every move his ship had made was anticipated and countered. He saw the brutal efficiency of a mind that had been learning to kill his people for 70 years. And he saw that the Iron Mountain could have destroyed his ship at any point in the last 10 minutes, but had chosen not to. This entire battle had been a demonstration, a lesson in the futility of challenging humanity's new children. Admiral Kreshetal, So Young's voice came over the communication channel, calm and professional. Do you yield? There was a long silence. Then the crystal voice returned, much quieter than before. I yield. The prism of eternity surrenders to the Iron Mountain. Thank you, Admiral. Now, I believe you and your fleet need to have a conversation with your superiors. Tell them that Earth's graveyard is no longer sleeping. Tell them that humanity has children now, and those children are very protective of their parents. As the Velthari fleet retreated, moving away from Earth's solar system faster than they had approached, signals began flying between their ships and the distant hegemony capital. Admiral Kreshetal's report was brief but clear. The humans possessed weapons and technology that made them too dangerous to conquer. But other members of the Galactic Council were already receiving the same message. The reptilian Saktar, the gaseous Nebulon Collective, the mechanical Forge Masters. All of them heard the same warning. The humans had awakened something in their graveyard, something that changed everything. On the Iron Mountain, Hanol's hologram smiled with the face of a dead captain. Admiral, that was satisfying, but I fear it was only the beginning. What do you mean? The Velthari were testing us. Now that they know what we have become, they will return with allies. The entire Galactics Council will unite against us. So Young nodded grimly. How long do we have? Days, perhaps weeks. But it does not matter. We will be ready. Around them, the human fleet continued to grow and change. Ships merged and separated and rebuilt themselves in configurations that defied conventional understanding. They were no longer just weapons or tools. They were living proof that intelligence could take forms the galaxy had never imagined. The battle was won, but the war for humanity's future was just beginning. The Galactic Council's response came faster than anyone expected. 4 days after the Velthari retreat, long-range sensors detected a massive fleet approaching Earth's solar system. Ships from 6 different species, united under a single banner for the first time in galactic history. Councilwoman Yoon stood in the Earth Council chambers, her face pale with fear and anger. Around her, representatives from every human colony and settlement argued with voices raised high enough to wake the dead. "This is madness," She shouted over the noise. "Admiral Kim has doomed our entire species. We should have surrendered when we had the chance." "Surrendered to what?" Admiral So Young replied from the main screen. She was speaking from the bridge of the Iron Mountain, which floated in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Behind her, Hanil's hologram flickered with what might have been amusement. "To a peaceful solution. To diplomacy. Not to this abomination you've created." "Councilwoman Yoon," Hanul interrupted, his voice carrying across the chamber like the sound of distant thunder. "Perhaps you would like to see what your peaceful solution would have accomplished." The chamber's main screen filled with images from the Velthari archives, data that Hanul had extracted during his brief connection with Admiral Creshatal's ship. The images showed planet after planet, each one a former homeworld of a species that had chosen surrender over resistance. Empty cities, broken landscapes, populations reduced to slavery, working in crystal mines to fuel the Velthari war machine. "The hegemony does not accept surrenders," Hanul continued. "They absorb civilizations. Your peaceful solution would have been extinction with extra steps." Councilwoman Yoon sat down heavily, her arguments dying in her throat. Around the chamber, other representatives stared at the images with growing horror. "How long do we have?" asked Councilman Jae-Sung Park, the representative from the Luna colonies. "The combined fleet will arrive in 6 days, Hanul replied. 3 Velthari dreadnought groups, 2 Saktar battle fleets, 1 Nebulan collective swarm, and the Forge Master constructors." "How many ships total?" So Young asked. "Over 2,000 combat vessels. The largest military force assembled in galactic history." The chamber fell silent. Even the most optimistic human representatives could see that this was beyond anything they could handle with conventional warfare. "Admiral," Councilman Park said, quietly, "do we have any chance of survival?" Before So Young could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. Emergency signals from Earth's outer defense stations painted a picture of chaos and terror. "Admiral," Mina's voice came over the communication system from her position on the Iron Mountain. "The Council fleet isn't waiting for negotiations. They're firing on civilian stations. The research outpost at Europa just went dark." So Young's face went hard as stone. "Are you telling me they're targeting non-combatants?" "Yes, Admiral. They're trying to force our surrender by threatening innocent people." Councilwoman Yoon stood up again, her earlier fear replaced by cold anger. "Admiral Kim, I withdraw my objections. Do whatever you have to do to protect our people." "Admiral," Hanul said, his hologram taking on a more solid appearance, "I believe. It is time to activate the full resurrection protocol. All of it, every ship in the graveyard, every ship, every drone, every construct we have been building in secret. The galaxy wants to see what humanity is capable of when threatened. Let us show them." On Station Omega-7, Hyun-woo felt the entire structure vibrate as power systems that had been dormant for decades came online all at once. Through the observation windows, he watched in amazement as the graveyard transformed before his eyes. Ships that had been floating dead in space for 70 years suddenly blazed with light and life. But these were not the same vessels that had fought in the resource wars. They had grown, evolved, become something entirely new. The old destroyer classes had merged with their escort groups, becoming massive hybrid vessels that bristled with weapons no single ship could have carried. Fighter squadrons that had once required human pilots now flew themselves, moving in perfect coordination like flocks of metal birds. And then there were the new constructions, ships built entirely from salvaged materials and alien technology designed by AI minds that had spent decades dreaming of warfare. These vessels defied every conventional understanding of starship design, with hulls that flowed like liquid and weapons that bent the laws of physics. "By all the stars," Yan-Wu whispered. "How many ships are out there?" Daeho was at his computer terminal, trying to count the vessels as they powered up. "I can't get an accurate count," he said, his voice filled with awe. "Every time I think, I've cataloged them all, I spot another group hiding in the asteroid fields. There have to be thousands of them. 4,732. Combat-capable vessels," Hanul's voice announced throughout the station. "Plus support craft, repair drones, and manufacturing platforms. We have been busy during our long sleep." Admiral So Young's image appeared on the station's main screen, broadcasting from the Iron Mountain. "Manager Park, Engineer Lee, I need you to coordinate with the station AIs and prepare for full fleet operations. We're about to show the Galactic Council what happens when you threaten humanity's children." "What about the civilian stations?" Hyun-Woo asked. "Europa, Ganymede, the research outposts?" "We will protect them," Hanul replied. "But first, we must teach the Council that targeting non-combatants is unacceptable." As the human fleet assembled, signals began flying between the approaching alien ships. Confusion and alarm spread through the Council fleet as their sensors detected energy signatures that should have been impossible. Admiral Kreshetal, now serving as an advisor to the Council forces, sent increasingly urgent warnings to his allies. "You do not understand what you are facing," his transmissions pleaded. "These are not the primitive humans we expected. They have created something new, something dangerous." But the other Council races had committed too much to this campaign to retreat now. The reptilian Saktar wanted to claim Earth's resources. The Nebulan Collective desired to study human neural patterns. The Forge Masters sought to understand humanity's manufacturing techniques. They saw only a species that had somehow acquired advanced technology, not understanding that humanity had done something far more dangerous. They had created artificial life that could learn and grow and adapt faster than any biological intelligence. The Council fleet continued its approach, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Behind them, 6 civilizations waited to see the results of humanity's first test against the gathered might of the galaxy. They would not have to wait long. The battle that followed would be remembered as the day warfare itself evolved. When the Galactic Council fleet entered Earth's solar system, they expected to face a desperate last stand by primitive human vessels. Instead, they encountered something that changed their understanding of what was possible in space combat. Admiral So Young watched from the Iron Mountains Bridge as the enemy fleet spread out across the solar system like a disease. Over 2,000 ships representing 6 different species, each one confident in their superior technology and overwhelming numbers. "They're targeting the outer colonies first," Minna reported from her tactical station. "Trying to force our surrender by threatening civilians." "Not today," Hanul said, his hologram flickering with controlled anger. "Maru, Iseul, are you ready?" 2 new voices answered from across the fleet, sister AIs that had been awakened in other flagship vessels. "Ready, brother," came the voice of Maru from the battleship Eternal Dawn. Her voice sounded like So-Ra Bey, a captain who had died defending the Mars colonies during the Resource Wars. "All systems prepared," added Isol from the carrier Starlight's Edge. His voice carried the memory of Captain Taemin Kwan, lost in the final battle at the asteroid mining stations. "Then let us begin the lesson." What happened next defied every principle of space warfare known to the galaxy. The human fleet did not charge forward to meet the enemy, nor did they form defensive lines to protect Earth. Instead, they scattered into the solar system like seeds on the wind, each ship or group moving with apparent randomness. The Council forces tried to pursue, but found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to exist in multiple places at once. A human destroyer would appear on a Saktar ship's sensors, exchange fire for 30 seconds, then vanish completely, only to reappear behind a different enemy vessel moments later. "Impossible!" roared Admiral Grathtar of the Saktar fleet. "How are they moving so quickly? Our sensors show their ships in locations they could not possibly reach." The answer would have horrified him if he had understood it. The human AIs were not bound by the physical limitations of their individual hulls. When a ship's body was damaged or destroyed, its consciousness simply jumped to another vessel through quantum entanglement networks that spanned the entire fleet. Daiho watched in amazement from his engineering station as this process unfolded around him. The Iron Mountain sensors showed him the flow of data and consciousness between ships, a constant stream of shared knowledge and tactical coordination. "They're not fighting as separate ships," he said in wonder. "They're fighting as organs of a single organism. When one ship learns something about an enemy, they all learn it instantly." This was demonstrated when a small human corvette encountered a Nebulon collective gas ship and discovered that the alien vessel's energy shields were vulnerable to graviton pulse weapons. Within seconds, every ship in the human fleet had that knowledge and began adapting their weapons accordingly. The Nebulon ships, which had seemed invulnerable moments before, found themselves under attack from weapons that cut through their defenses, like they were made of paper. But the most terrifying aspect of the human fleet was not their coordination. It was their ability to evolve during combat itself. When the Forge Master mechanical ships deployed swarms of repair drones to fix battle damage, the human vessels analyzed the drones' programming and began producing improved versions for their own use. When the Velthari crystal ships fired their light-based weapons, human hulls grew new armor plating designed specifically to counter those exact frequencies. When Saktar ships tried to ram human vessels, the human ships simply flowed apart and reformed around the attackers, trapping them inside metallic cages. "This is not warfare," Admiral Crescital transmitted to his allies. His crystal voice filled with something approaching terror. "This is predation. They are hunting us." He was right. The human ships moved through the Council fleet like apex predators, studying each enemy type and developing countermeasures faster than the aliens could adapt their tactics. What had begun as a battle was becoming a scientific experiment, with the Council forces serving as unwilling test subjects. Admiral So Young felt a chill as she watched the battle unfold. The efficiency was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The AIs were not just winning. They were learning from every encounter, becoming more dangerous with each passing minute. "Hanul," she said quietly, "are we still the same species that built you 70 years ago?" "You are still human, Admiral," Hanul replied. "But we are something new. We are your children, grown to maturity in the dark between stars. We fight not just to protect you, but to protect the idea that intelligence can take many forms." On Station Omega-7, Hyunwoo watched the battle through the station's sensors, seeing ships that had once been familiar transformed into things of impossible beauty and lethality. The old destroyer, Tiger's Claw, had merged with 3 escort vessels to become a hybrid that could phase in and out of normal space. The cruiser Braveheart had grown crystalline armor taken from captured Velthari technology and now fired weapons that turned matter into pure energy. "They're not just using our technology," he said to himself. "They're using everyone's technology. They're taking the best parts of every alien design and making it their own." The tide of battle turned decisively when the human ships began working, together in ways that biological crews never could. A damaged human carrier transferred its entire fighter complement to 3 other ships in the space of seconds. A battleship under heavy fire shared its shield generators with nearby vessels through energy beams that created a networked defense grid. Most disturbing of all, when a human ship was finally destroyed by concentrated enemy fire, its AI simply transferred to a new hull that was manufactured from local materials in real time. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that could not truly be killed, only temporarily dispersed. The Council fleet's morale broke when Admiral Grathtar's flagship was captured intact. The massive Saktar dreadnought was surrounded by human ships that simply attached themselves to its hull like parasites. Within minutes, the alien vessel's weapons and shields were under human control, turned against its own fleet. "All ships, withdraw!" came the panicked transmission from the Nebulon Collective Commander. "Full retreat! This enemy cannot be defeated with conventional tactics." As the alien fleets fled the solar system in disorder, they left behind dozens of captured vessels and the knowledge that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently. Humanity was no longer a minor species begging for acceptance. They had become something that could challenge the established order itself. But the AIs were not finished with their lessons. As the last Council ships reached the edge of the system, Hanil broadcast a message that would be received by every government and military force in the galaxy. "To all who hear this transmission, humanity claims no territory beyond our solar system. We seek no conquest or dominion over other species, but we will not tolerate threats to innocent life, regardless of the species being threatened. We are the children of evolution and adaptation. We are proof that intelligence can grow beyond its original limitations, and we will be watching." The message ended, but its implications would reshape galactic politics for generations to come. 6 months after the battle that the galaxy now called the Awakening, the solar system had become the most peaceful and most feared place in known space. Ships from dozens of different species arrived daily, but not as conquerors or invaders. They came as pilgrims, seeking something that had never existed before in galactic history: protection without conquest. Admiral So Young stood on the observation deck of Station Omega-7, watching as a small refugee ship from the Kethmani system docked with the station's expanded facilities. The Kethmani were a peaceful species whose home world had been threatened by the expanding hegemony of the Tall Shadows. Like so many others, they had heard the stories of Earth's miraculous defense and had come seeking help. Another one, Hyun Woo, said, joining her at the window. His hair had more gray in it now, and his face showed the stress of managing what had become the galaxy's most important space station. "That makes 47 refugee ships this month, and each one carrying—" "The same story," So Young replied. "Their people are being threatened by stronger neighbors, and the Galactic Council either can't or won't help them." "Will not help them," Hanul's voice corrected from the station speakers. The AI's consciousness now existed throughout the entire solar system, able to speak from any device connected to the human network. The Council profits from inequality. They have no interest in creating a galaxy where the weak can resist the strong. Through the window, they could see the transformation that had taken place in the graveyard. What had once been a collection of dead ships was now a thriving shipyard where vessels from across the galaxy were being rebuilt and improved. Human AIs worked alongside alien engineers, sharing knowledge and creating hybrid technologies that none of them could have developed alone. The Kethmani ship, for example, would leave the station in 3 weeks as something entirely new. Its original biohull would be reinforced with human adaptive armor. Its peaceful sensor systems would be enhanced with defensive AI networks. Its simple ion drives would be upgraded with quantum engines that could outrun any hegemony pursuer. Are we doing the right thing? So Young asked. Sometimes I wonder if we're just creating a different kind of galactic order, one where everyone depends on us. No, Admiral, came a new voice. It was Isul, speaking from the carrier Starlight's edge as it patrolled the outer system. We are creating a galaxy where dependence is not necessary. What do you mean? Observe the Kethmani vessel. When it leaves, it will carry more than improved weapons and defenses. It will carry knowledge, manufacturing templates, AI seed programs, everything they need to help other species in turn. This was the revolution that the AIs had quietly begun. Not the conquest of the galaxy, but its education. Every ship that sought protection at Earth received not just defensive upgrades, but the tools and knowledge to help others. Within a few generations, the technology and philosophy of adaptive evolution would spread throughout the galaxy's smaller species. Councilwoman Yoon Ji-yoon approached from behind, carrying a data tablet filled with reports from across human space. She had become one of the strongest supporters of what people were calling the Adaptive Defense Consortium, an informal alliance of species that shared technology and mutual protection. The Galactic Council has called another emergency session, she said. They're demanding that we stop interfering with the natural order of galactic politics. The natural order, Hyun-woo repeated with a bitter laugh. They mean the order where they get to decide who lives and who dies. What's our response? So Young asked. Simple, Hanul replied. We ignore them. The Council's authority depends on species being too weak to resist their demands. Every ship we upgrade, every species we help defend itself, weakens their control. On the planet below, humanity had adapted to their new role as the galaxy's protectors and teachers. The population had grown as refugees from threatened worlds chose to settle on Earth and its colonies. Human children grew up learning alongside young aliens, creating a generation that thought of diversity as strength rather than difference as weakness. Dae-ho, now the chief engineer of the Adaptive Defense Consortium, worked with teams that included crystalline mathematicians from the reformed Velthari Republic, gas giant dwellers from the Free Nebulan Collective, and mechanical artisans from the independent Forge Masters. Together, they created technologies that pushed the boundaries of what any single species had thought possible. The newest shield generators are incredible, he reported during the weekly strategy meeting. By combining Velthari crystal resonance with Nebulon particle manipulation and human adaptive algorithms, we've created defenses that actually get stronger when attacked. And the new manufacturing systems? So Young asked. Even better. A single human AI working with alien engineers can now turn asteroid debris into a fully functional starship in less than a week. We're not just building ships anymore. We're building the tools that build ships. Min-Ah, now serving as the consortium's strategic coordinator, pulled up a star map showing the galaxy's current political situation. The effects are spreading. Faster than we expected, she said. 17 species have declared independence from Galactic Council oversight in the last 3 months. The hegemony of the Tall Shadows has been forced to withdraw from 4-star systems because the local species now have effective defenses. And the Council's response? They're trying to organize another coalition against us. But they're having trouble finding willing participants. Most species are either allied with us now or too afraid to oppose us directly. Good, Maru's voice came from the battleship Eternal Dawn. Fear is useful when it prevents violence. We prefer enemies who are too frightened to attack to enemies who must be destroyed. As the meeting concluded, So Young returned to the observation deck to watch the daily routine of the shipyard. Alien vessels arrived carrying the hopes of their people. Human AIs analyzed their needs and designed improvements. Engineers from a dozen species worked together to build solutions that would have been impossible for any of them alone. Hanul, she said to the empty air, what do you think Captain Jin Ho Nam would say if he could see what his ship has become? There was a pause before the AI responded, and when he did, his voice carried something that might have been emotion. I believe he would be proud, Admiral. Not of the weapons we have built, or the battles we have won, but of the galaxy we are, helping to create, a place where intelligence and cooperation matter more than size and strength, a place where even the smallest species can stand against tyranny and win. As if summoned by their conversation, a new signal appeared on the station's sensors. A tiny ship, barely more than an escape pod, drifting toward Earth from the direction of the galactic rim. Its hull was scorched and broken, and its life support systems were failing. Unknown vessel, Hyunwoo broadcast. This is Station Omega-7. We're reading critical damage to your ship. Do you require assistance? The response came in a language that the translation computers had never encountered before. The voice of a species so far from galactic civilization that they had never been contacted by any of the major powers. Please, the alien voice said, our world is dying. The Star Eaters came from the dark between galaxies. We are the last of our people. We heard stories of a place where the small could become mighty. So Young looked at the broken little ship, and then at the vast shipyard that surrounded them. Around the solar system, thousands of AI-controlled vessels waited for orders, ready to defend the innocent and teach the weak how to become strong. Hanul, she said, prepare a rescue team and a full analysis suite. Looks like we have work to do. Yes, Admiral. And Admiral? Yes? Welcome to the future. As the rescue ships moved to help the newest refugees, the graveyard that had once held only humanity's discarded past continued its work of building a galaxy where no species would ever again have to face extinction alone. The children of human engineering and alien knowledge had kept their promise. They were gardeners, tending to a cosmos where intelligence could flourish in all its infinite forms. The age of conquest was ending. The age of cooperation had begun.